now we're going to transition to the official demo day. First of all, I want to thank every single cohort member that's here and non-cohort members that are here as well. But for the cohort members, thank you for attending the whole 10-week program. I know it was a lot of work, and I know it was a little bit more commitment than you usually have in a typical club that meets a couple times a semester. But I mean, on my end, the founders that have came to speak said you guys were absolutely fantastic, really jogging their brains, asking some really tough questions, and they really enjoyed sharing their experiences with all of you and just learning from each of you, especially because they came from Tufts, some of them, and just seeing like where you guys are going to go. And it left a lasting impact not only on them, and I hope it left an impact on you guys. But other than that, today is your guys' show, and I'm excited to see what you guys have been working on. And without further ado, we have Arman up first with Rentee.
Hello everyone, my name is Arman, and this is my project called Rentee. So first, I had to identify the problem. Lawnmowers cost about $150 to $1,100, depending on the quality, and snowblowers cost about $700 to $1,300, depending on the quality. Of course, there are bigger machines, but this is the average cost. Now, the problem is that machines like lawnmowers or like snowblowers are only used a few times a week, maybe a few times a year, and they still cost hundreds of dollars to keep for space and for maintenance, and it's really not worth it for a lot of people. Even though they might be necessary, the cost is just too much for the very few times that they are used by these people. So I decided to create Rentee. Rentee is a website to facilitate the renting of expensive machines like lawnmowers and like snowblowers. Of course, this would expand to other things in the future, but right now I wanted to start out small and practical. And these, after talking to numerous people, were two machines that were necessary for people to use, but still very expensive to maintain and keep. Now, the business model and the website I wanted to create was a bit complicated, so I came up with two potential models and talked to numerous people to figure out which one was best. First is company to customer. The way this would work is we, as a company, would purchase lawnmowers and snowblowers, and then we would rent them out to people. The benefits of that are we get 100% of the profit from renting it, we control the goods, and you only need buyers because we own all the goods. However, the costs were also important. First of all, it's really expensive from an initial standpoint. It costs maybe $1,100, as I said, to buy a snowblower, and if you wanted to get 10 of those, that would be $11,000, and over time that grows, and the costs really aren't worth it. Also, there's diminishing return. I.e., when you buy these machines, you need to maintain them, and over time, these machines get more expensive to maintain, which means the price of these machines have to go up. So we're getting a net loss over time as we continue trying to maintain these lawnmowers and snowblowers. And also, we have to take 100% of the liability on because we own these machines, so if they get damaged, we're the ones who have to repair them. The other one I came up with, which is the one that we have decided to use, is customer to customer. The pros of this is that we don't take on any of the liability. The people who are renting these machines are customers, and the people who are buying them are customers as well. So these are normal day people who are facilitating the transaction. We just create the website to make it easier to do it for them. The other benefit is there's no seed cost. All we need is maybe $50 to buy a website, and the rest is just getting people to use our site. And finally, since it's completely online, we're able to access a wider range of people. All you need is to find someone else in your area who has what you can borrow, and we can do that all online without having to make stores or find ways to actually create places for people to go and get these machines. The cons I assessed were, number one, we don't own these assets. They're owned by the physical people who rent these out to other people. And also, we must get buyers and sellers, i.e. people to rent the machines and people to rent out the machines and people to rent these machines. After talking to a few people, family, friends, parents' friends, I came to the conclusion that customer to customer is probably the best way to do this because first, company to customer as I've done before, and also customer to customer allows us to access a much wider range of people that we can get more money from and get more people to use the website. Sorry.
Here, I pause your timer.
So these are the projections we have for something of this sort. Number one, potential users. There are 209 million adults in America. from various statistics, we found that 80% of them own a lawn, and about 60% of them live in areas with a lot of snow. Of that, maybe 20% of them pay a company to do the work for them, so they would never need to buy a lawnmower or buy a snowblower. And of that, maybe 40% wouldn't be willing to share their machines or buy them. That still leaves potential of 42 million people in America who could use this opportunity. And from the numerous people I've talked to in my city and in my area and in my town, this is something that people would very much be able to benefit from. Next is potential revenue, which I think is important. Potential revenue is about $22 million at best, because it's 21 million people, which is about half the people, because they would be the ones renting, and the other half would be giving it out. And if you multiply that by the percent we would take, which would be 5% of each item rented out, and the average dollar per transaction, we would be able to get about $22 million. I think it's important to know that on average, about $21 per hour is spent when someone is renting out these for the average cost. So that's where we get the 21 number from.
You have 30 seconds.
Also, and probably most importantly, initial cost. It really is not that expensive to make the website. We're just able to buy it, and all the other money we would use would just be towards marketing and getting people to join it. Because we don't own any of the assets, we don't need to take on any of the liability or any of the costs. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't get to the last one.
Stand up for questions.
Oh, yes, questions.
All right. Then we'll have about 2 minutes and 30 seconds for questions. If anyone has them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a question about logistics, how you're going to facilitate the exchange of all these heavy and bulky devices between either customer to customer or company and customer.
Yeah, so that was one of the big issues we came up with for company to customer, because it would mean we would probably have to take on the cost of having to go ship it out to them. But the best thing about customer to customer is it could be similar to eBay in that you find someone who might live maybe a mile from you or half a mile from you, and then it's much easier to actually get the machine there, and you can negotiate with them on how it would happen. So we'd say that building a website where people can find people in their area that can rent them out means that the cost to bring it to them or go out and get it is much less than it would be before. There are a lot of, for example, Home Depot does this, except it forces you to go to their store. And like the closest Home Depot store to me is 7 miles away, which makes it very impractical to go out and find the machine. So this allows you to rent from people much closer to you and in your area. Yeah.
What if someone damages the machine? Do you have insurance or?
Yes. So we plan on having insurance for these people, and then also we would have credit cards on file, which means that these people, if they were to damage the machine, they would have to pay some out-of-pocket cost for the damaging the machine that belonged to someone else. Yeah.
How would you manage the storage and the maintenance of the machines you own?
Oh, so we decided that the best solution would be customer to customer, so we wouldn't have to take on any of the machines and would need physical warehouses for them.
Okay.
Sorry, what about competition? Did you do competitive analysis? What did you find?
Yeah, so there was 3 main, sources of competition we found. Number 1 was the Home Depot model, and that is where you can go to their stores and rent them, but the big issue there is there's a limited number of those stores and you have to go out there to get them. Also, they really don't like it as much because they prefer to buy the machine because it's more money for them. So since we are a primarily renting app, we would be completely focused on getting people to know about this aspect and we would get people to be able to use it. The next is Facebook Marketplace. Which is a big one. The few issues we identified with that and how we would be unique is, number 1, Facebook is declining in use for younger audiences, which means doesn't have long-term efficacy. So in the next few years, when we become adults and have our own homes and stuff like that, the chances of us using Facebook are much lower. And then also they don't have any customer guarantees or any reviews. So since we are the ones who are facilitating this, we make sure that the people who are renting the machines are certified, and we would make sure that they are reliable people that you can trust. And then the final one we identified is Garage.com, except the issue with Garage.com is if you want to rent something, you have to be able to put something else up for someone to rent. So it's a kind of both people are renting stuff, and that's not really effective for people who just want to rent. So we were able to access a larger customer base.
Awesome, and with that, we're out of time. We'll have another questions at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay. Next, we have Zero Pollution.
Hi everyone, my name is Senri Nakamura. I'm a CEO and founder of Zero Pollution, and we aim to provide clean, safer water at low cost. So, in recent studies shown that 90% of water, 600 water supply system in Massachusetts contain PFAS, which is the chemical that could be cancerous and it can harm our immune systems. and 30% of them exceeded the regulations that Massachusetts sets in last year, 2 years ago. And the PFAS is so prevalent in the environment because every product that are waterproof contains PFAS, and it is not biodegradable, and it's so small, so it is so hard to filter, and it requires high-level technology to filter it out. So as I mentioned, it requires high-level technology to filter, which is so expensive. Last year, an Arman in Michigan spent $3 million to $4 million to replace their existing water supply system to filter the PFAS, and they have to spend $500,000 extra to maintain the water supply system every year. And also, the existing filters takes a few days to filter the PFAS, which is so slow compared to the filters that were used before. So, Zero Pollution introduces new filters that use wood pulp instead of the existing material that were used for the PFAS. And it is biodegradable and sustainable and cheap. So we replaced the material that we used, which is called activated carbon, with the wood pulp. And it has so many advantages that I'm going to explain in the next slides. So the main advantages that wood pulp has is that we can cut the cost by 3,000 times more, and also we can cut the time that it requires to filter by 100 times more. So as I mentioned, wood pulp only costs $1 to produce per ton, whereas activated carbon costs $3,000 to produce per ton. And also, an activated carbon filters takes a few days to filter the water, whereas wood pulp only takes less than 30 seconds to filter the water. And then since it's made out of the wood pulp, which is sourced from the trees, it is sustainable, biodegradable, and also it doesn't harm us compared to the activated carbon, which can harm us to have diarrhea and also other side effects. And then also, I'm Japanese, I'm from Japan, and Japan is a leading country of wood pulp production as well as wood pulp research. And my dad actually works in the paper making industry, so I have ties and connections to the wood pulp producing companies. So I have a trust, and he helps for my company. So then our EMD users will be a local governments in the states, especially in Massachusetts. We will be a Massachusetts Department of Environment and Policy, and they own 1,700 water supply systems, and we will be providing our products to them. So we estimate our product price to be around $50 to $100 per filter, and we estimate our production cost to be $5 to $10. This is way less than existing filters because the material cost is 3,000 times less than the one we use now. And then the market size that we encounter in states is estimated around $1 billion, and in Massachusetts itself, we estimate it to be around $100 million to $300 million. It depends on how much we can price out our products and they wish to pay for. Yeah. And then we have 6 competitors in Massachusetts, and then we have 3 indirect competitors and 3 indirect competitors. They are the companies that use or make activated carbon, and we don't have any direct competitors that use wood pulp to filter the water. It's just these companies already have customers that employ their technology for the water supply filters. And that's it, Mike.
You have 3 minutes for questions. Can you save 30 seconds?
So do you have any questions?
Yeah, so I'm really interested in wood pulp as a technology, and if your family has experience in that industry, or in terms of what studies that you yourself may have done with wood pulp and comparing its effectiveness to activated carbon. You say it's faster, it's cheaper. Why isn't everybody using it?
So I'm taking an independent study course about paper making, and then it's going to be hard. But I was studying about cellulose nanofiber, which is the grinded version of wood pulp, and then that is known for filtering any chemicals, and it is expected to be used for like rocket or other cars or filtering air. But then I found a research paper that was published this year, actually, that used wood pulp, because wood pulp is like way cheaper than celluloid fiber, and then they were able to filter PFS, and then it's actually a new study, so then they haven't been able to implement it to actual filters yet.
Yeah, so I wonder if that paper has already patented technology, because depending on what grant they got, they'll be either patent or public knowledge.
Not yet.
Not yet, right?
Yeah.
Then that should be a strategy.
Yeah.
Patenting stuff.
Are these filters for houses or for like more general?
It's more for industrial uses.
Okay.
Because we don't know how many end users will be and wishing to filter PFS, which
Okay.
I didn't know until like recently.
How often do they have to be replaced?
Annually?
Okay.
So do cities in Japan use them already?
No.
Do they use them commercially?
Japan is mainly leading country for production of wood pulp, and they haven't even yet to be able to implement it to filters.
So this would, from what I understand then, because it filters out PFAS, it would be like a complementary filter product. So in addition to like existing ones, because it doesn't filter heavy metals like cadmium,
Yeah.
lead, right?
Yeah, I think we will be able to either combine with existing filters or add to the wood pulp to the existing filters, or replace that existing carbon activated filters to wood pulp that also complements the other features.
Cool, any more questions? No? Thank you very much, Senri. And next up, we have Luis with Better Meals.
Thanks for coming today. Welcome to Better Meals. My name is Luis Suarez and I'm the co-founder of this company. What do we want to do? We identified a problem on which I was part of the problem myself. When I came here, and before here I was living in Singapore in a boarding school. I found myself in a place where the food was new, and when I was dining for the first time in a buffet style dinings, which means that I can grab as much food as I want, and there are so many options. This created a problem. First, it was super overwhelming for me to decide what to eat on a daily basis. There were so many options. I couldn't cook on a daily basis because it was too hard because of time restrictions or because I didn't have the appliances. And at the same time, I had a lot of time and space to eat because I have a meal plan of 400 meal serves. And at the same time, because I was studying for finals or I was working on other things, I've been stress eating a while. So my health and my nutrition was not the best for my first few months in university and also in high school. So what can colleges do to support this transition, specifically to ensure that students are having a balanced diet and they don't suffer from problems associated to this? They can first offer nutrition services, so like dietitians on duty or nutrition workshops, which is something that is not as effective because taking into consideration the large amount of undergraduate students and also the small amount of dietitians that are available on duty. Or they can create a simple tool that is based on diets, that is based on restrictions, that is based on the goals of every student to help them create a balanced meal plan and in order to have better meals. So our solution that came to Better Meals. Better Meals basically provides, based on your personal data, your interests, whether you want to bulk, you want to lose weight, you want to stay on the same weight, whether you're an athlete, you are very active, or you're very sedentary, and specifically about your meal plan, and it provides you a diet for the day. How does this work? The diet is based on the menu that is on the Tufts Dining and all the dining apps from each college. So for example, if the menu for Do Week on that day means that there are like 5 different kinds of protein, and you always go for the same one, this app will recommend you based on the recommendation of the dietitian to have a different meal. If I always have for breakfast eggs and bacon, maybe one day they will recommend me to have a bagel with peanut butter and almond milk. And then because I have extra meal sets for the day, I can go to Kindleban and get a panini and get a peanut butter smoothie, which has protein in it. So it's a good way to change your diet and find a new way to vary this while having a balanced meal plan. This is not about like those like fitness tracker apps in which like you check your calories and then you start going into a hole in which you start thinking of everything that you eat. It's just about making sure that you're having all the nutrients or the nutrients that your body needs, and you can have like a better opportunity of performing during the first year. So what about the data and what about the people that go to these programs? We all know Freshman 15. And frame shifting, even though it's like something real, it depends from school to school. So basically 75% of students, undergraduates, they get 7 pounds in the first year. This is like 3 out of 4, and then it's like only by eating 112 extra calories a day. 100 extra calories a day could be eating a small portion of a cupcake or something that you share with the person that you're having dinner with, which is something that we might not think about, but it's something that might happen. Then we have a 25% that experience an increase of 10 pounds in the body weight, both women and men. And it's only during the fall semester. So in the first 4 months that you come to college, you already gain weight. And again, it's not about the weight itself, it's about everything that is associated with it, like stress or health conditions or like even your athletic performance for colleges in which there are no dietitians in turn for athletes. And then we have a 5% that actually more or less part of the 15 pound of the freshman 15, which is something during the first year, which is something quite concerning taking into account that there's also like a cultural issue for international students. Myself, I came here, and before coming here I was in Asia, so all the food was different for me. Even if I had an app to like, or if I had someone to help me, I didn't know what the food was. I didn't know what was composed of it. So with this app, we can find a solution for them, for those that come from different cultures, and encourage some new food to have a more balanced diet. How will we do this? The app will be sold to universities. The universities will have this as an opportunity to market their diet, to market their lifestyle. Then the pricing will depend on the number of students, and then we will offer a yearly contract and looking for extra benefits upon renewal on the next year. And what's next? On the next few months, we expect to get collection from students, from people inside Tufts, because as an undergraduate, I'm part of the issue, so I want to help my peers. Then develop my MVP, get some testing and try to figure out how the algorithm works for the diet itself, and then try to make a deal with Tufts. Thank you so much. Okay, that's good. Any questions?
2 minutes for questions.
Louis, you're an upperclassman, right?
Sorry?
You're an upperclassman?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thanks.
It's a great presentation.
Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, so have you envisioned any steps for building out that MVP? I feel like, of course, at the core of this model, you need an MVP. That's what your idea is.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think the first step is to work with a reduced amount of items in the menu. So we have like something reduced and easy to work with. And also I've been in touch with some dietitians for Tufts School of Nutrition. So to have someone in touch help us with the diet and make sure that everything that we recommended is actually useful for the body. And then after that will be develop the mobile app. I will try to do it myself.
Great. Would you mind going back to the timelines of that?
Yes.
I don't want to hold up questions.
Any other questions? About competitors, there's another app called Notemeal that is specifically aimed for athletes. So for big colleges, D1 colleges that have a large amount of athletes that they don't have a dietitian or they have few dietitians for a large amount of teams. So this way more specific for regular students. So to have an easy way to access a healthy diet.
Louis, I really like this idea. I think that something that you might want to look at is maybe parents sending almost like care packages to their kids, right?
Okay.
Especially when you consider like, you know, if you think about nutrition or parents, you know, wanting to dote over their kids, right? This might be an capability for them to do so, right? Especially also considering that meal plan is probably still even more so expensive than when I was in school, right? And so, you know, obviously this could be a cheaper alternative, right? Something akin to like a HelloFresh, right, or Blue Apron service, right? And especially if students are coming home for the weekends or, you know, if they're at a place, right, you can deliver it either to the dorm or to someone's home, and, you know, send the kid back with the package, right?
That's good, thanks.
Portion meals,
prepared meals.
do all self, also teach the kid to cook when they're in school.
That's all the time for questions. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you very much for sharing better.
Thanks.
Hello everyone and welcome to our pitch. Our venture's name is Spotted. Most of us have probably been in this situation where we have wasted a lot of our time wandering around a building trying to find the perfect study spot. Well, that happens to me quite often. Just a couple of weeks back, I actually toured all 6 floors of this building trying to find a study spot and wasted a lot of my time. She's not the only one with this problem. Based on our customer research,
we conclude that most people are also struggling with finding a study spot. Also, that would make them feel better if they have a friend that reserves them a spot. Also, over 60% of people think that an app that reserves a study spot would be helpful.
So our solution to this problem is an app called Spotity that will help you find the closest study spot, reserve a study spot for just you or your group of friends, find friends and classmates, and see the available study spots. With this, you can save time, increase productivity, and have fun.
Our project design is an app. So this is an example of an app designed for Tufts University. The first page is where the user can sign up using their Tufts email. The main screen is where all places at Tufts are located. There are some filters here. Also, the user can see how crowded is the place. They will click on their preferred place. They will go to a next page, and then they have all of the spots available. Then they can pick their favorite spot, see how long they're gonna stay there, and they are all set. This is the user profile. We have some cool features to engage people to interact with each other and having fun using the app. We have here the drop-down list where the user can give feedback on their spots and help other users find their available spots. We have a point system that helps users reserve more and more spots. Once they get there, we use NFC technology because it's super cheap. We can implement it everywhere. So just like they will tap their phone and that's it.
Our business model is a B2B, business to business, and we have a large market because there are over 5,000 colleges in the US alone. And this problem of study spot scarcity is being faced by colleges like UCLA and Lehigh at the moment. Our plan for gaining revenue is to first conduct survey on target colleges, test the product at Tufts, and based on our result from the survey, we sell our product to the target colleges.
Because we know how busy are the college students, our ultimate goal is to have a software that helps them not waste time and increase productivity. We are now working on developing MVP. Then we will test it at Tufts and expand it to other colleges. It will not be only limited to study spot, but also we want to add some other features like gym spots or dining in spots. Here's our team. I'm Shahd, Ahmed, co-founder of Spotity.
And I'm Astha. So with just one click, you can now stop touring, start spotting. Thank you.
You guys have 3 minutes and 20 seconds for questions.
You guys did not mention Tufts as a market. So is this because Tufts already has a reserve app? Or is that also the market?
Tufts is also a market that it will be our first market, just like as a place to test our product.
So I'm curious because I'm a senior, so during my time right after COVID, we did have the reserve system for every single table in Tisch library, every single spot at SEC, and every single spot at Fletcher. So I don't know why Tufts removed that. So something to look into. There might be an issue.
We're freshmen, so actually
Yeah,
I had no idea.
exactly.
Yeah, we also, can I explain just one more thing? We were just saying that it will not be only limited to study spots. We want to expand it more to other things so that students generally do not waste time.
Yeah, so at BU we have a system still where you can, especially during COVID, we did have a system where we could reserve rooms. But now we have like certain activities, like if we were a club like Jumbo Ventures at BU, we would reserve a room to meet there. So there are systems in place. That's a BU system. BU system is terrible from my perspective. So if you guys could create possibly a platform that other universities can implement, such that students could reserve spaces, that could be an idea. Maybe starting small, like for example, if it's a Tisch library or a library at BU, there could be certain like spaces that are dedicated to spot to these, it may be a little bit difficult, maybe. Unless you thought it was to implement this across like all spaces across all universities, like the entire university. So just a thought.
VU has like a very good system for classroom school of business and for entrepreneurship, like Bill Lab. But that's because like there are so many students who want those spots, and they're just like like not enough yet. So like you have to book it like 2 days before to receive. So it works for VU, but maybe for other universities like there's like need software like that.
Yeah.
Especially maybe for smaller universities with more students and some busy places.
Yeah. Also at Tufts I found like reserving software, but it's not actually work like from my perspective, because as you said you have to wait like a couple of days until you get there, and that's because like the implementation of technology is not actually sufficient for the app. So like by incorporating other stuff to our app, it will make it more efficient and like have more spots where you can like reserve a room or study with group. It doesn't necessarily have to be a room. Like if you look at why people choose to reserve a room, because it's like quieter, they can study as a group, but like using machine learning or some sort of AI, people can like find many spots where they can like available spots that are next to each other, so they can sit and study in the group. It doesn't necessarily have to be a room.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for presenting.
All right, cool. So my name is Gabriel. My co-founder is Adonai. Today we're presenting TuftsPass, the digital Tufts ID. So I know that college life is not just about academics, right? We hang out with our friends, we go eat in the dining hall, we study at the library. There's so many activities that we perform throughout the day. And what we notice that they all have in common is that they require the use of your student ID to be performed, to be initiated. In fact, about 80% of school-related activities require the use of your student ID. But then I ask you guys a question. What if you don't have your ID on you? You just don't go to the dining hall, you don't eat, you don't go to class. Besides the inconvenience of having to carry that piece of plastic with you every single day, we found out that there are so many other problems associated with it. Students have reported that 40% of students have lost their IDs at least once throughout their college careers. 55% of students have experienced being locked out of their rooms and needed the help of TUPD to open their dorms. On Tufts' side, Tufts has to allocate resources and extra staff to deal with lockouts. They have to incur the cost of printing new cards and also deal with the environmental burden of plastic consumption and pollution. So we know that our fellow Jumble is definitely not happy with this, and that's why we created TuftsPass, the digital Tufts ID that you can access directly from your phone. By downloading our app and logging into our platform using your Tufts credentials, we'll be able to create a digital version of your student ID that you can access directly from your Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, or any digital wallet that you use in your phone. And boom, you'll be ready to tap your phone onto any of the card readers on this campus. This is the beauty of what we're doing right here, is that all the readers on this campus already accept the NFC technology that we have on our phones. So I challenge you guys, when you go back to your rooms, to tap your phone on the card reader, and you're going to see that it already activates. So what we're doing right here, this is fantastic, because Tufts would have absolutely $0 in infrastructure costs to implement this technology, since all the card readers already accept it. So what we're doing here, we are creating something that's extremely simple, that solves a pressing problem in the university. And we're using a technology that's already existent in our phones, and a technology that's already exists in an infrastructure that's already existent in the university. So the market size is also gigantic, because we're serving the entire higher education market in the United States. There are more than 4,300 higher education institutions, including colleges, universities, and community colleges, that we're going to license this technology to, and bring our vision of convenience through a seamless experience for students, but also help those universities reduce the logistical burden of lockouts, and also help them meet those environmental standards. We did a calculation right here. We have that by addressing just 10% of this market, we'll be able to save about 6 tons of plastic, which is a lot of plastic. We believe we're particularly well positioned to solve this problem, not only for our experience with tech firms and startups, but also because we've worked for the Office of Residential Life. So we know who on this campus are the decision makers, and we know the inner workings of card access here. So by implementing TuftsPass, we believe that we'll be able to foster a cardless and plasticless Tufts.
Awesome, thank you. You have 4 minutes for questions, or 3 minutes for questions.
You went first.
Alright, so this is a great idea, and I just want to clarify, so the technology actually syncs well between the phone and the scanners by Tufts?
Yes, exactly.
Alright, that's
So
great.
if you try to tap your phone onto any of the card readers, you're going to see that the Apple Wallet pops up immediately.
Mhm.
That's what we had in this picture right here.
You can test it out there.
It happens on my phone too, so
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. That's
So
really cool.
it's already existing.
And the other thing that the card is actually used as identifier with local banks, with museums, and even some services that accept student IDs. So I wonder if you will consider the legitimacy or some sort of proof that this is a valid card to like the whole ecosystem besides Tufts.
No, I mean, it's a great suggestion. The thing is, what makes this piece of plastic valid is that Tufts approves that this is valid. You know, any form of verification that Tufts uses to approve that this is valid. When the police comes around and they check for your ID, they take things like your birthday, your Tufts ID number and stuff from your card. If Tufts says this is valid, it is valid, right? If they have to tap it, if they have to scan, whatever they have to do, this is valid because Tufts approves that it's valid. Whatever this can do, the phone can do as well. I showed you a typical card that we made, which had the same barcode here. If you scan it, it would work, right? The barcode scanner, if you tap it, it would work, right? If you have any form of information on it, if the police sees it and they approve, oh, well, this is a Tufts ID. Whoever has to approve that this is a Tufts ID will approve that's an ID if Tufts says that's an ID.
That's great. Just an input as a student, I bring this off states to get discounts for a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I still bring my card to a lot of places.
Yeah.
And other places might not be up to date with what Tufts does. So that's something to think about.
True.
And I can make a fake card with the Tufts ID image
True.
on my wallet too. So
Yeah.
just think about it, not a criticism.
Yeah, that's a good point because we are also adding an extra layer of security right here.
Mhm.
Because whenever you activate your Apple Wallet, you have to use your Apple ID to identify that it's actually you that's using the phone.
Mhm.
So there's an extra layer of security. Anybody can take your card, but not if anybody has your facial structure to activate the phone.
Please.
Do you have an Apple ID?
An app?
Yes.
No, not exactly. Not right now. Right now we're dealing with the MVP, which is creating a digital ID for 1 or 2 or a few people to be able to tap their cards and to be able to see like next step. Because it's more like we have a product that we have to pitch to Tufts. For us to get an app, we'll need Tufts to also add their layer of security, which is the dual. They have this dual unlock thing which they use for every Tufts app, right? We could also not exactly make an app for it, but incorporate it into the already existing Tufts app. All that is needed is for our system to be a working system which is proven and accepted by Tufts and the Tufts Technology Services.
That's all the time for questions. Thank you very much for presenting TuftsPass. We'll have to and for our next and final presenter, we have Theo Henry with Tylt.
Hi everyone, my name is Theo Henry. I'm a senior studying computer science here in the School of Engineering. I'm also a co-captain of the men's basketball team. Tylt is a nightlife database, and we are helping young adults enjoy nightlife by moving weight lines online. We have 2 customers. Katie is our first. She's 22 years old and recently moved to Boston. She enjoys nightlife, but doesn't know where should she go out, how long will the lines be, and waiting in line is so frustrating once she's at the venue. Bobby is our second customer. He owns a popular bar in Boston, but he's popular on the weekends but has low revenue on off-peak nights. Additionally, he has minimal customer contact when people aren't physically in his location, and he has a lack of data points on who his customers are and what they like. Tylt provides the solution, in an easy platform where Katie can discover nightlife and reserve her place on a virtual line. She receives text message notifications when to arrive at the venue, and when she does, she enters through our Tylt VIP line, which on average takes under 3 minutes from when you arrive to enter the venue. For Bobby, we help him get discovered by young adults, we help him establish customer loyalty, and increase revenue through our marketing and analytic tools. Now, I had this idea this past summer when I was living in New York City. I went bar owner to bar owner, asking them about their challenges and how I could solve some of these problems using the virtual line. And what we arrived at is by the data we acquire when people use our virtual line, we can use that to market bar promotions and services on off-peak nights. Now, we developed and launched an MVP, and we're in 3 of the hottest clubs in Boston, and we've been growing our line reservations week over week and receiving phenomenal feedback. We're in the process of developing a mobile app, which is set to launch in May, at which point we'll expand throughout New York City, Boston, and in 2024, we'll expand our operations to include taking cover payments, ticketing for events, and in phase 3, a full-scale reservation platform. Now, our business model is threefold. We have a subscription fee for bars, clubs to use our technology. We take reservation fees, so every time we drive our customers to a bar, a club during off-peak hours, we take a fee for each guest we drive. And finally, ticket fees. When we implement covers and tickets, we will take a percentage of that payment. Now, in terms of projections, in year 1 with 15 venues, we expect to do 64,000, and next year 736,000. And that's just on the basis of the subscription fee software, as well as the reservations we drive on off-peak times. In year 3, we expand our operations to include covers and ticket payments through our app, on which we receive a commission. And in year 4, we see a big jump as we expand to a full-scale reservation platform where we manage the operations of bars, restaurants, and clubs on our platform like an open table, like a resident. Now, we have an opportunity to do good for a lot of people. Roughly 45 million people ages 21 to 30 engage in nightlife once or more each week. 200,000 of those people live in Boston. Now, among this group, anxiety and depression are significant. And we hope that by taking the anxiety and frustration out of nightlife, by removing physical lines, we can improve social connection among this group. Now, in terms of competition, our most direct competitor is called Line Lead. They allow customers to pay a premium in the line to skip the line entirely. Tylt differentiates ourselves because we move physical lines online, so that rather than being at the venue itself, you can wait from the comfort of your home or a nearby bar or something like that. Additionally, there's companies like Eventbrite who ticket in for events. However, selling tickets doesn't alleviate the pain point of the line. And finally, there's reservation platforms, but those only exist for restaurants. Tylt, we're entering this market through the nightlife angle, and we hope to capture the bars and clubs and restaurants that focus on nightlife, and that's how we'll build our database before we enter the reservation market.
20 seconds.
Our team has a startup track record, nightlife experience, and motivation. This is my 4th startup, the most successful of which I grew to $20,000 in monthly revenue. We have nightlife experience. I've worked as a bouncer and a promoter throughout clubs and bars in Boston. I have the industry knowledge and the relationships to execute. Finally, we are motivated to solve this problem because we are the target demographic and passionate about solving it. And finally, thank you and tilt up.
He won that derby competition.
So how do you envision like that capacity management and that kind of operational management that you described? Why does it make sense to tie it into Tylt as opposed to making standalone platform?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Could you say again?
More simply, how do you anticipate building in the operational management component of the platform?
Sure. Sure. Once we build up our database of customers and once we're accepting line reservations, we're already driving most of our business and a large chunk of the revenue we gain by driving our customers to make reservations through our bars, our clubs, existing platforms. We believe that if we're already driving that business, we can create the platform itself because we're already managing the lines on the peak nights and we're already driving their reservations. If we take those reservations ourselves, we can capitalize on all the fees that are reservations, not just through Tylt, as well as capture other typical reservation fees such as takeout fees, and we can increase our revenue through that model.
How much revenue did you earn so far?
We have made roughly $200 over the course of a couple weekends.
And again, how long have you been in operation? And you have 3 clubs, right?
Yes, our MVP has been out for 1 month.
I want to understand, when you move lines online, how exactly would that look like? Because people would check in beforehand. I think that's what, I'm assuming that's the system. And when they get there, they show that they are checked in and they enter. Is that?
It's something like that. So bars and clubs have a physical line, and then they also have a Tylt line. That's where our customers enter through. So whenever you're ready, you reserve your place on our virtual wait line, which, just like a physical line, has some number of people in it. When those people are at the front of the line, they're notified to arrive. They show up and enter, and that's how the line moves forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Is IDing done online or is it done in person?
That's not part of, that's a great question. IDing, that would certainly make the process a lot quicker, and that's something we'd like to build in our platform eventually. However, it's not necessary for our app to launch.
That concludes your question time. Thank you very much for presenting Tylt. And that was the last Jumbo Ventures cohort presentation, so I'd like to open up the floor to judges and anyone else who has any questions for anyone, because I know we cut off the time. Feel free.
State our decisions. Like everybody here is doing absolutely excellent work, and everybody I think is at different stages. Whether this is like one of your first ventures, and our judgments are holistically based. How you presented certain criteria that we have. And if you aren't in place, it doesn't mean your days are all excellent. I think you guys should all work on them. I think that you guys have so much potential, and you should be inspired, and we're glad that you're here. I think if we want to, announce in order. So,
Yeah, you want to do?
sure, yeah, so we really like Better Meals. There you are. We really like Better Meals. We're super impressed by your presentation. And again, does not say everybody else's presentation is excellent. We're really impressed by your presentation. Congratulations. Thank you.
Also, thanks to you personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some advice we're talking about was to try to approach consumers rather than universities. So maybe like get onto those youth groups with the parents, or like find the emails of incoming students and just kind of like email with there's a startup from Tufts, but like it's not like really Tufts, but
makes sense.
we're from Tufts.
Thank you so much.
So great presentation. I think that the poise and the kind of presence that you placed, especially in front of a lot of people, it was really impressive, especially for a freshman.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Not to say anything about freshmen. The bar is kind of set.
Also, if TuftsPass, second place, we'd like to.
Again, look, the presentation, obviously very lively. Appreciated the enthusiasm. It's obviously very great, and it's always great to see people who see like problems before them and then start to address them, right? And I think that for where you're at, right, in your career and where you are, it's really impressive seeing that. Presentation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and also we'd like to honor your Tylt because we really like the idea of where you're at, and I think that we'd like to award you with third place.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, and well, that concludes Demo Day, but the Jumbo Ventures journey is just starting. You guys are all still in the Slack, and if you guys haven't connected with each other on LinkedIn yet, I highly recommend it. The goal right now, we're still trying to figure out like what happens after the cohort, but the big thing is we're all in the same Slack. Everyone is forcibly in the same place, and so think about that as like networking for forever. You guys are welcome to come to any meetings in the future, welcome to attend. You guys are on the e-list. We'll see a lot of advice and resources coming from me in the future as we continue to grow this club. And don't forget to tell your friends. We're always trying to grow the entrepreneurial community, especially with students at Tufts, and stay connected because, I mean, I'm going to be graduating this year. I know Theo and a couple of the other seniors in the club are going to be graduating. The time is short, and really take advantage of being a student entrepreneur especially, and be creative, take some risks, fail, and learn from them.
And I'd just like to quickly hop in and say also that like regardless of whether or not you received a positive result from this demo day, that like Max and I were just discussing, after an entire semester of everyone coming for these weekly meetings, of like building out this cohort, we've seen all of the people here grow as individuals throughout the course of the club. I remember in our first session with Tim, it was an excellent session, but I remember like, you know, Tim kind of said like, okay, well, we need people to ask questions, and everyone was just like getting to know each other. And from then to now, looking at everyone putting up these confident presentations of an immensely high quality level across the board, and to see people, the second we finish presentations, immediately start networking and doing it just the way that we had tried to do it the first club session. It's really humbling for us, for Max and I, and for the entire board to see the progress that this club has made. So it's really been a pleasure to have been your executive board for this semester and to watch everyone grow. So.
And if anyone's interested in joining the admin team for future semesters, or if you're interested just in hanging out and helping out, feel free to reach out to me. My number is on way too many documents that I've sent to you guys. That's probably a security risk, but just feel free to reach out, literally whenever, call, and yeah. I'll open up the floor to networking and continue having some pizza and whatever.